Is the answer that baseball is like an ex you eventually get over, but you haven't? Is that because of the connections you've made with Trey Mancini? And it's not just a sport, it's friendships, it's connections you have with these players now that when Trey goes through cancer, which is a horrible ordeal, you cheer him through that, and then you cheer him back on the field again.
Yeah, it is. I do think about it like a relationship. I mean, it's the kind of relationship that has ebbed and flowed over the years for me. My dream was to be a major league player myself. And I tried and failed. I tried going to a Division III school, Hamlin University, where I thought that I could get on the team real easily. And then within 48 hours, I was cut. I bet .091 in my senior year of high school. I was not a highly touted prospect. And even back then, when they had 40 plus rounds in the draft, of course, I was not drafted. But when I became a clubby, like I just had this in the back of my mind, like, am I going to have my Rudy moments? Like, is my love of the game and my dreams of being a professional ball player going to come full circle? And in some ways, it kind of did as a clubby. I eventually put on a jersey. I took batting practice with the team, all that, and like I became more in love with the game there. But it is like an X that I hadn't thought about it so explicitly, but that is exactly what it is. It's like an X. It's like a wound, but something beautiful too. You know. God, it's so interesting. I hadn't thought about them as being so transactional before, but it is true. I did put stand up on pause for a long time. I mean, when I graduated college, being a clubby was the only job experience I had. I was a clubby in my senior year at Winthrop University. You know, I was on a Division I baseball scholarship for Washington Jockstraps. And then when I graduated in 2011, weren't a whole lot of job opportunities. I thought, okay, that's my only job experience. I could do worse than to get a job in minor league baseball. Well, little did I know. I mean, looking back now, I don't think I have a cynical view of that time. I'm so grateful for it. But at the time, it was really painful for me. Like you said, it was basically like going through a breakup, realizing like, wow, there's a really messed up world here where players are attacking each other with baseball bats over music choices. Dominican guys are walking out in the middle of the game. I'm feeding guys like leftover hot dogs after games. And I was like, this is the best case scenario if I had become a professional ball player myself. It was and yet I still wanted to be one of those guys. So yeah, like the stand up part, it just was like so far behind me that I didn't even think about it for the longest time.
Did you keep a journal? Did you do a vlog? How did you keep such good notes of the experience? Because as I'm reading it, it's so detailed. And I have a goldfish memory. So I'm like, how did you
Right.
keep track of all these experiences so you didn't forget anything?
I kept a 285 single spaced page series of notes over those 2 summers. So within a matter of weeks, I knew that there's a book here. Within a matter of weeks in the 2012 season, I was like, okay, there's a story here. I don't know what it is, but I would just write down conversations that I had with guys. I'd like anything funny or interesting that happened, I would take notes about it. Just be like typing away back in the equipment closet and writing a clubhouse book, even though it's not real kosher in baseball. You know, people get ostracized. I'm never going to work in baseball ever again if I wanted to, just because of this book. Even with that stigma, a lot of guys in clubhouses still talk about, oh, I should write a book about a season. I've always thought of coaches, players, whomever. 99.9% of them never follow through on it. So like when I told guys, hey, I'm keeping track of notes, like I'm writing all this stuff down for a book, to them, I was just another guy who talked about it. But then turns out I'm one of the guys who actually did it too.
Which of baseball's unwritten rules do you love or do you hate? Because I can't think of the young Padres player last year who hit this grand slam and everyone was
Tatis, yeah.
upset. Yeah, I say it's a grown man league. Like if you can hit a grand slam,
Right.
smash it out, man. So that's the one that I hate. Which of baseball's unwritten rules do you love or do you hate?
Yeah, as far as rules, unwritten rules that I hate, anything related to hot dogging, anything related to showing off, not being cool. I hate that keeps young kids from being excited about the game. Like there's a reason why young people are not loving baseball right now. It's because guys are not allowed to be their full selves on the field. It's like this old white dude, like old school style of play the game the right way. Well, the right way means being as boring as possible. And so the smallest showing of emotion is somehow stepping out of line. I think it's BS. Like you watch the guys play in like the Dominican Winter Leagues. You guys watch the play in the World Baseball Classic. That's exciting baseball because they're actually allowed to show their emotions. Those unwritten rules just go out the window and like fantastic, man. I think an unwritten rule about, well, now it's a legit rule, but about sliding into second base cleats high. I like that unwritten rule. And it is interesting you mentioned the mini podcast focusing. So I've been doing the Clubbie podcast where I focus on the most obscure baseball knowledge on the internet. And every episode, sometimes I'll do a reading from the book, but I'll do topics like why baseball players smell their bats sometimes. A lot of people don't know that after a foul tip, if it's perfectly hit so that the ball gains momentum as it brushes past the bat will actually give a burning smell. You can actually smell
It's the
the wood
velocity
burning.
kind of deal.
Exactly. It's the leather of the baseball hitting against the grain of the bat, and guys will go up and smell their bat. So I talk about that on a podcast episode. I talk about the clubhouse dues system in the most recent episode. So like, I'm totally with you. I think it's these fascinating tidbits of the baseball world that people don't have an opportunity to look into.
What was it like being part of the team of destiny?
Dude, that is the feeling. It's like nobody can stop us. every single thing that can go well does go well, and everything that goes poorly turns out for the better in the long run. My favorite example, early on in that season, one of our games got not even rained out. It got electrified out. Like we lost electricity in the Staten Island Stadium. So the game paused halfway through with us down 4 runs. And, we were leaving town the next day, so we couldn't make it up with a doubleheader. So we had to make up that game 2 months later. And so when we first started that game, the first 5 innings in June, we were a terrible team. But then when we came back to restart the game, all of a sudden we were the team of destiny.
Yep.
And so we came back in a game that technically lasted 2 months, and we won it. It was like we started July with a winning streak of, I think, 5 games, and guys were disappointed because we lost a game because they thought in the back of their minds, maybe we'll win out the entire month. Nobody says it explicitly, but that's how it feels. It's like nobody can stop us.
What was the toughest part of sitting down and actually writing the book?
When I wrote the first draft, I thought it was going to be an expose, and I was not a character in it at all. I think as a defense mechanism. Like I did not want to expose those childish parts of me that wanted to be the little brother feelings that are so prominent in the book. I didn't want that to be, I wanted it to be objective. I'm exposing the minor league system, and here are the facts to back up that point. And it was just so dry and boring. Putting myself as essentially the main character was the most challenging part of that process, because I had to rewrite the entire book. And I also had to expose parts of myself that are unsavory, like my relationship going downhill, like me lying to players, me swindling players to take advantage of them when in a system that they're already being taken advantage of. By far the hardest part.
What has been the most rewarding aspect so far of having this book published and out there?
Hearing a lot of the amazing feedback from fans, that's fantastic. But hearing from guys who were in that clubhouse call me up and say, dude, you captured that world so accurately. I could hear the guys and I could smell the locker room and I could smell the rosin. Hearing that from people who were in the clubhouse with me, there's nothing better than that, because I'm like, okay, man, like I really did capture something here. I didn't just bloviate about myself for 250 pages. I took a sliver of time that other people were in there with me, and I captured it